stuff that feeds your soul, which is something that comes, I think, with this time in your life. It's like, okay, enough with the stuff that everyone else says you have to do. Now I'm going to do the fun stuff.
I'm paying more attention to the dialogue, the internal dialogue that has me think I'm not enough, as distinct to paying attention to the dialogue that tells me that I'm not enough and then responding or reacting to that.
At the stage you're in, that's when I felt the ups and downs and the questioning of who am I, because this is not normally how I act.
Oh, yeah.
And that rage, talk about shame, but I threw a knife.
Welcome to Midlife Unfiltered, a podcast about unapologetically embracing the season of me as we live the lives we want in midlife and beyond. I'm Anita McLachlan.
I'm Erica Webb. We're here to make some noise, say hell no to outdated stereotypes, and hell yes to living life on our terms.
Well, hello. I am super excited. Erica, you must be too, because in the house we have Alex Hanlon and Cat Matson, two awesome women in midlife who have joined us today to, talk some stuff about what this midlife looks like and some other wisdom they're going to share as well. So, great session, great episode. Can't wait to dive in. Why don't we start with, who are you? Cat, you want to go first? You're in my line of sight. Tell us a little bit about Cat Matson.
Well, the first piece that I want to say is I'm in denial, because when you just said, we've got Alex and Kat who are in midlife, I'm like, no, I'm not. I am not. But fact would be I am. So I'm Kat. I am a multifaceted, distracted / multi-talented person who runs a business. I'm the mum of 2 teenage boys. I've been a single mum for longer than 10 years now. Actually way longer than 10 years when I count that back. I am a coach. I've worked in so many different industries that it's really hard for me to sum up what I do these days. And I'm exploring midlife with my style, which is make as much trouble as I can and stay in denial as long as I can as well.
Good old disgracefully.
So maybe causing trouble keeps you in denial. It's a lovely big shield.
Yeah, I like that.
Nice
Yeah.
big distraction for you.
Totally.
Yeah, we might unpack that a little bit. Who knows? We might go there. How about you, Alex?
Well, who am I as a person? So I was born in Adelaide, and I am the mother of Chris and Aidan, the step monster to Patrick and Lachlan, the wife to Sean, and the staff member to a small West Highland White Terrier called Dango.
Dango.
And in my spare time, I have a business. I'm a negotiation coach. And then when I don't know, maybe it's more spare time, I also work in reconciliation.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
You do noble work.
No, well, perhaps it's noble, but for me, actually, the motivation is stuff that feeds your soul, which is something that comes, I think, with this time in your life. It's like, okay, enough with the stuff that everyone else says you have to do. Now I'm going to do the fun stuff.
Yeah, absolutely, 100%. Do I hear an amen?
Yeah, amen to that.
Amen.
We hear an amen. I love that. Thank you so much for the intros. So, Erica, you are
Hello.
40. Hello. Sitting there listening quietly. You are 41. We're a little bit further along the midlife spectrum. I think you've got some questions that you want to ask our wise women on the bench today. Is that fair to say?
Oh,
I do.
brace for impact.
Brace for impact. And I will warn you, I like to go deep and I like to do that quickly. So
Oh, we know.
brace yourselves. Brace yourselves. I am 41 and I have to laugh, Kat, when you say you're in denial, because I feel like I'm straddling this funny kind of one foot in denial and one foot in what an exciting time to finally shed some of the crap that I feel like I've held onto for 40 years. So I'm looking forward to hearing more about, how that denial serves you and perhaps, diving into that a little bit. But one of the things that Anita and I have been talking about in this season is having a vision for our 90-year-old selves. And I kind of get a bit of a taste of where that might go for you. But I would love to hear from both of you what vision you have for your 90-year-old self. What would you love to be doing? How would you love to be seen? What would your 90-year-old self be if you could literally dream her into life?
Oh, it's such a ripper of a question. And it's a tough one for me to answer. I'll be really honest, because the things that are important to me now, I know will not be important to me when I'm 90. Like because the things that are important to me now weren't important to me. God, they certainly weren't important to me 40 years ago. And we're looking actually at a bigger timeline than that. So to clarify, I'm 47, turning 48 in a couple of months. So that denial doesn't come from a place of not wanting to be this age. I just still feel like I'm growing up. Like, that meme that does the rounds every now and then of, I'm sitting here wondering what mum's going to make for dinner. And then I realize, oh, I'm the mum.
Damn it.
Oh,
Damn it.
who's cooking dinner tonight? That'd be me. So, look, my vision for my 90-year-old self is that I'm not cooking my dinners anymore. that's somebody else. Somebody else is cooking dinner.
So there are staff.
So there are staff.
There are staff.
in my own home. Yes,
There's a chef.
Yes, there is a chef. Probably actually one of my many lovers. Actually, that would be fantastic.
A brace of
yes,
chefs.
a brace of chefs. No, in all seriousness, the best model I have for my 90-year-old self is my grandmother, who made it to about 92. And she was what we would now call an accidental entrepreneur. She was a nurse, and she created her own home nursing service when she needed to make money, when she was left alone raising 6 boys. Yes, some of them had left home, but she still had a couple at home.
Go Nana.
Yeah.
That's big.
And she was phenomenal. Like, she was just phenomenal. She just did the things. And my memories of her, in particular, we would go to Melbourne to visit her, and she ran the home nursing service from home. We would stay with her when we were in town, and the nurses would walk down the driveway and the dogs would go ballistic every single time somebody walked down the driveway, which happened every 15 minutes. The staff who would be sitting in the area that they worked from would welcome the people, and they would have a chat, and there was always coffees and teas and fruits, mince pies, because we were always there at Christmas time. And there was this constant cycling of people moving through. And now, she wasn't 90 when she was doing that, but my memory of her and her final years were very much in that community sense. It was very much, there was always people around. There were always people talking to her, coming to visit. And that's the best picture I have of myself. I want the people who I care about to still be circulating around, whatever that looks like. I mean, gosh, by the time we're 90, we'll have holograms visiting us, and
You can't cuddle a hologram.
No, but our loved ones will be living all over the world, because that global village will be so, we'll have the next round of the Concorde, so you can just zap to the other side. So do I.
TARDIS.
But here's the
so
thing.
Cool.
Here's the thing, Alex. When we're 90, nobody will know what a TARDIS stands for.
Yeah.
AI will remind us.
This is true. So, I think my vision for my 90-year-old self is just that there's the people that I care about are still hanging around, and I haven't become a crotchety old woman.
Yeah.
Troublemaker, yes. Provocateur, yes. Slapping people around the head with verbal conversations, yes, but not crotchety.
I love that. And I so relate to that, because when Erica and I were talking about longevity in our first episode and 90-year-old us, I wanted to be causing a bit of trouble. So, and fellow August babies here.
Yeah,
so
Leo.
maybe we need to do one on star signs and future
And
self.
trouble.
And trouble. Thank you, Kat. That's I had a beautiful vision then, especially that whole sense of the comings and goings and the open door and the open hearts and the big hugs and all of that love and care, which I think we need a hell of a lot more of on this earth. So I think that's a beautiful 90. Thank you.
Oh, and active too. I want to say, like, I'm not sitting there in my wheelchair waiting for these people to come. Like, I'm out and about and still playing. Still doing yoga. I was about to say playing tennis. No, that was my grandmother. I will be doing yoga.
Lawn bowls.
No.
Oh, come on.
No. Well, goodness knows what. There'll be all sorts of inventions by then.
I'll be making martinis. I'll be having lunchtime martinis. That's
There
what
we
I'll be
go.
doing.
Now we're getting warm. Now the conversation's warming up. We're getting somewhere now.
Margaritaville round at your place.
Yeah, that's
Nice. Nice.
Is yours similar, Alex?
No.
Right. I think we've picked the right duo here.
No, for me, actually, the vision that comes for me is you can all bugger off. You can, really, seriously. I mean, there's just, for me, it's a little bit more, it's a bit more alone, actually. So I imagine a house, there's a river, a creek, there are dogs, there are many dogs.
Because they don't talk back.
Because they don't talk back, and most of the time they behave. Most of the time they can be bribed with food. Actually, come to think of it, men, food. Anyway, no, and okay. So I have always known that time in my life would be a very creative time. So I have a studio in my head, and it has a great big kiln in it.
Oh, wow.
And I want to be making. This is so weird. But I've had this like since my 20s. And like you, I'm 57. So since my 20s, I've known that at that time in my life, I will be making terracotta dragons that sit on the top of your roof.
I will have
away.
10 of them, please.
Yeah, you need one for each corner of the house. You know, so that's what I'll be doing. I'll just be creating and doing that stuff. People can come and they should bring food. Yeah. Because I like cats.
You won't be cooking either.
I'm just going to be, I'm just too exhausted for a brace of lovers. Really? You know?
Well, after all of those dragons.
You don't need to share that much.
No. It's like, really? No. I want the dinner all to myself. I don't want to have to negotiate television with anybody. And I just want to make stuff. Yeah.
Make stuff. I love that. Really, again, strong visual of the kiln.
Yeah.
Is that kind of like the center of your... Is that like the hearth of your home, that kiln?
Could be. Yeah, symbolically. There's something about making stuff with my hands. I did a version of this actually during lockdown. I was in New Zealand during lockdown and COVID. And there was in New Zealand that you were allowed to go out and have a little wander around the streets for exercise. And there was a thing about taking the kids out and allowing them to go bear hunting. So everyone would put teddy bears in the front window of their homes so the kids could see them, you see. No teddy bears in our house. A lot of boys, but no teddy bears. So I started making fairy doors. I don't know where they came from, but I made little fairy doors with little lights and put them at the bottom of all the trees in the front yard. Oh, my goodness. So that the kids would come along and they'd see the fairy door. So this is kind of where the dragon thing comes from. Yeah. I think it's a Celtic ancestry. It's the only thing I can put my finger on in that regard.
That is beautiful.
Well, it's fun.
Yeah, but it's beautiful. It's the possibility. It's the it's the invention. It's the imagination, and it's whatever they want it to be. But you've given them. You've opened the door for them for that.
Well, there was one young chap who tried very hard to open the door and took the handle off. That's right. The doors didn't open. That particular one didn't open. Anyway, I made them to open after that because the kids are like, I opened the door. Yeah.
Fair enough.
I was brought up on stories of the Tuatha De Danann, which are the Irish fairies. Right. So by my Irish grandmother, who was actually mostly Australian until she got drunk at Christmas. And she was very Irish then.
Right. That could be a whole other podcast.
Yeah. And so I got really into the Irish fairies because they're not all nice. They're not all Tinkerbell.
Yeah.
They're a bit ratty, actually.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Love that.
A bit like us, really.
Yeah.
Ratty fairies.
Totally.
Yep.
So two very different versions of 90-year-old me. Isn't that fascinating, Erica? And juicy. That's fantastic.
I love it. And you know what's interesting? When Kat was talking, I realized I haven't had any models for a 9-year-old woman. Yeah. All of my grandparents died when I was very young. And so I haven't really had not a personal one. I've had kind of, adjacent people in my life, I guess, but really not a lot. But what I'm struck by so much, and particularly as you were speaking, Alex, was kind of combining what Kat said about I'm sort of in denial because I still feel really young. And then Alex kind of going back to these kind of, roots of fairies and dragons and all of this. And that's probably been one of my biggest realizations in my 40s is kind of looking back at my young little kid self and thinking that women our age kind of were who they were, that they'd
Oh, yeah.
landed somewhere, that they were something. And being here and going, geez, wow, there's still so much of me and you and us to explore and become and uncover and choose. And that I think has been missing from my narrative of what it is to age. And I love that. So I love that there's this sense of there's still so much possibility. It's not like I just take this version of me and age it. It's like, no, I get to choose, I get to explore, I get to do these things that bring me joy. Like, I love that. That's so cool.
Yeah, brilliant.
And I
That's
think there's something delicious there too about coming back home to who you were when you were a kid, like reclaiming, revisiting, or really owning and amplifying it. I know that's certainly been true for me in the last few years. I've really kind of gone, oh, hang on, I was here all along. I abandoned her. I forgot her. I tried to push her all aside. But the things that are important to me now, it's like, oh, I can see that has been there since I was 3 or as a teenager.
It's like the second half of your life gives you permission
Yeah.
to go back to that stuff and just go, okay, yeah, bugger you lot. This is me. So it's great. Yeah,
Absolutely.
really
What a
cool. So
segue.
you
That was a
get back
really
to it,
nice
the
segue,
better.
Alex.
You're
yes,
welcome.
absolutely. That was, I mean, you couldn't have set that up better if we'd given you a script, honestly.
Boom.
This
Was there a script?
this
Did I miss something?
notion. Yeah, no script. You're good. This notion of bugger it all, like screw those expectations, screw all the stuff that we've been told we have to do or see or say or whatever. Which really leads us into a conversation that is another thing that Anita and I have been talking about. And we've spent a lot of time talking about this, both on the podcast and just together. This idea of midlife being a time where we move beyond our shame stories, where we kind of look shame in the face and say, not today. And I wanted to dive into this as a conversation as well, because I don't think we talk about it enough in terms of I could look at all 3 of you women and just assume that your success and your joy and your radiance and your everything about you kind of means that there is no shame underneath all of that exterior. And I think that when we share some of our experiences of shame and how we've moved through it and maybe past it or maybe just learn to live with it, we can sort of feel a little bit less alone when we think what we're seeing on the outside in other people doesn't match up with what we're experiencing on the inside. So I wondered if you guys would be willing to share a little bit about, I guess, the biggest shame story deconstruction that has been part of your midlife so far. And I know that's a big question, so, be willing to say no as well. But I guess for context, shame is a little different to guilt. And I think that you probably know this, but to create some context, guilt says that I did something wrong, right? My actions were bad. Shame really speaks more to this idea that I'm bad. I'm broken, I'm defective, I'm not doing it right, I'm wrong. And I'm noticing already, only 2 years into my 40s, that I just don't have the patience for shame to run the show anymore. It's just like, oh, no, we're not doing that. But there's a process, right? There's a real process to breaking that down. So I'm just curious if you'd be willing to share what that's looked like for you and perhaps what the biggest shame story or the one that you're willing to share has been for you in sort of pulling that apart, deconstructing it and saying, nah, we're not going to let that drive.
Yeah.
Okay, Alex.
All right.
Batter up.
Right. Okay. I think so. For me, there is a narrative here that is about relationships with family as the eldest girl child, and having the weight of expectation. And so the shame comes about when you don't meet what the expectations are. And I had fabulous mum, love and adored her, absolute pieces. Part of the world that she came from was very bound in the morals of the 1950s, right? And so to be the right type of woman, to be a nice girl, you had to do particular things. And some of it was just like set the table properly or have the right manners. And other parts of it were more insidious. It was like how you dressed, how you spoke, how you would hold yourself in company and what you could talk about. So for me, it's been that whole shame piece is very wrapped up in those expectations. And one of the nice things about getting to midlife is the freeing of that. And what I've learned though is that you still have a relation. You've got to kind of kick the old relationship, the old familial relationship to the curb and say, not today, Satan, essentially. It's the relationship, not the mother, right? So you've got to kick that to the curb, knowing that you still have an ongoing relationship, but you're going to put different boundaries around it now. And you're going to do that because it's important to look after self as well. So that's kind of my bit, I think, to get started on this shame bit. I mean, because there's plenty of other things that come along, aren't there, sort of more incidental. But I think that for me, that's been a really fundamental sort of driving piece, is trying to get rid of the expectations that you're never enough. Yeah.
That's certainly my biggest one.
Yeah, because it's reinforced so many ways, around us. The societal, it's just bollocks, all of it, really.
I think that enoughness conversation has been the one that has driven the most of my actions in the last, I was about to say in the last few months, but actually life. And that the piece that you said, Erica, around, shame is more of that piece around we're broken, we're not worthy, we're not enough. I wish I could talk articulately to this in this context, but I can't, because I'm still very much in it. I'm still, in fact, my very current journey in my business, which is where I do 99% of my self-expression. So, my people say your business shouldn't be your life. Oh, but it is. It is. And that's how it is. That's how it is.
Are you a business owner?
Yes, I am. Except I don't feel like I'm a business owner, right? I feel like I'm faking it. I feel like I'm making it up on a day-to-day basis, even though I have been in business since 2001.
Yay, you.
And this is the thing. This is the very thing that I've been grappling with recently, has been, even though I have been running my own businesses since 2001, I still sit in my own head going, when are you going to make it? When's it going to be enough? When do you feel like, when do you think you're actually going to feel like you've got this under control? And I know that everybody in this room will be looking at me going, but you do have this under control. You're one of the leaders. Your cat. We look at your emails and we go, we're going to funnel hack those emails. I know, but I still sit in this place of, I don't feel like I've hit it yet. I don't feel like I've got it yet. I don't feel like I'm enough yet. And in fact, the very journaling exercise that I did this morning was, I'm developing a new, to me, I'm developing a new coaching offer. And I'm like, okay, I've really got to justify why I can coach people in their businesses. And then I was like, because you've been doing this for 30 years. Do you think that might be enough?
The University of Life.
Yeah. But it is real. And so to answer the question of how do we unpack that shame, whether it's in this phase of life or in any other phase of life, for me, it's been about presence. It's about hearing that dialogue and going, really? Is that true now? If I was hearing what I'm saying to myself come out of the mouth of a friend, would I be accepting it, or would I be slapping them around going, oh, really? So I'm gently slapping myself around and going, really now? Are you sure? Like, what do you need to be enough?
You're paying more attention now to that, more than you have in the past, potentially?
I'm paying more attention to the dialogue, the internal dialogue that has me think I'm not enough, as distinct to paying attention to the dialogue that tells me that I'm not enough and then responding or reacting to that.
Yes.
So I'm trying to not do things to prove that I'm enough and instead going, why do you think you're not enough?
Yeah,
Mm.
that is
Look at the evidence.
fantastic.
It's exhausting is what it is.
But what a beautiful awakening. Seriously.
It's
That'll set you up, that's a really great start. That is awesome. Gold star for you, Kat.
Thanks.
Thanks. Erica. Sorry, darling.
I was really just going to say what you said there, Anita, and I want to put my counselor's hat on for a second because
Could you please?
I want to almost. I
Take
mean,
a
I'm
sip
not
of
going to
water,
give you
Kat.
any therapy, but I feel. Do you know what I really wanted to say was that you kind of opened up by saying, "I just want to make it clear that I'm still in the middle of this," and that is the most honest answer that any of us could give. And you're not really in the middle of it because you know that you're in it. And I think
Well,
that's
that's a
the
fair
thing
point.
that is so important for everyone to hear when it comes to shame. I literally teach this stuff, right? Like I literally have created a living based on helping people with stuff like this. But I can assure you that I am still in it myself. But the difference is that when shame drives, we aren't aware of it. We believe every single thing that it says. And so to know, that's interesting. This is what, these thoughts are telling me. And I actually don't have to just follow them down their merry path that tells me here's all the ways you now need to prove that you're good enough. The thoughts themselves are just, they're pretty well practiced. So it makes sense that they come up all the time. But I just hope that other people listening hear this, hear what you said. Like you can see that everybody's external kind of view of you is probably very different from what you experience from the inside. And the indication that we're like doing it, moving through it, moving beyond it, is the fact that we know it's happening and we create space to make a choice. So like, I don't know, triple gold stars in my opinion, but I hope that helps.
Triple. I'll take that.
Triple.
Why not?
Everybody gets gold stars.
Erica, I've got a question for you just from what you said about, and you're just using the language of moving through it, because in some of the way that I framed it up for myself is it kind of is, if you've spent like 40 years of your life in this space where you believe a thing, then it kind of makes sense to me that you might spend another 40 years trying to get out of it, if you could even ever get out of it. So it feels to me like it's just like a continuum. It's like it is a thing for a person and that you just continue to work on it. And that's part of the journey that we call life, that you're just living, working your way with that thing. I just question this whole idea about whether we can expect a neat little end where we get to a moment
I
where
don't
we
think
go,
so.
No.
yeah,
No, that's a myth.
No.
That's a
Yeah.
filter we're busting right here, right now. Let's call it.
Yeah.
Let's call that one.
bust that myth.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
not
And
like it's on the other side.
Mm.
There's the sunshine and rainbows. No, it's a part of who you are.
Yeah,
Yeah.
It's
Mhm.
some of the layers of the bark of the tree that
Yeah.
you've built up over the years. It's just like, okay, and it might be one of the ones that we want to turn the volume down on occasionally.
Mhm,
Some of that
mhm.
stuff, yeah.
But it doesn't make it go away completely.
No, because I think it's a
Yeah.
bit like it's that concept of hungry ghost, isn't it? Some of these things, that the whole idea that you were saying before, Kat, that it never really goes away.
Mm.
Yeah, that you can kind of contain it a little bit, but maybe it's always there.
Maybe it
And
is,
Alex,
and
I would
maybe you
say
choose to.
too. Sorry, Anita, I'm gonna try not to do that.
We both are far too curious, Erica. We have heaps of questions.
Like, pick your moment, Erica, pick your moment. But I was going to say, Alex, I think you almost answered that question before when you were talking about, the changed relationship with family. And you mentioned, changed relationship with mother figures. And
Yeah.
I think that's what happens. I think we change our relationship with the stories that would, can lead us down the shame path, or they can lead us down the inquiry path or whatever. It's not that that it disappears, but we change our boundaries with it. We change our relationship with it. We change the questions that we're willing to ask of it. I think Kat's spot on, though, that takes more work. It's potentially a little bit more effortful. But I think the outcome of that is far more kind, ultimately.
Yeah, and this is what we want in the world, isn't it, Erica? This is why we're doing this podcast, is to have these conversations that bring these hard feelings up, to talk about them, because we both really believe that we need to have more of these conversations in order for people to feel better about themselves, and to understand themselves more deeply, because this is the hard stuff. And when you think about the flip side, like why do many in our society drink more than ever before, take drugs more than ever before, have addiction issues like ever before, social media, whatever, blah, blah, blah. There's lots of ways to get that distraction, to be in denial, to not go there. So it is much braver and more difficult to go there, but far more rewarding.
Well, and to pick up on that too, a modern world, and this is going back to Erica's conversation around not having those 90-year-old woman role models. Our role models are incessantly everybody else. The comparison stories that we consume, I'm not going to say we're fed, that we consume, are more prevalent than they've ever been before in any other generation. And we worry about our teenagers being exposed to that. But you think about the impact on us, on middle-aged women, and, the Golden Girls, which was a TV show that many of us grew up with, I did, and I still find it hilarious. They were 50.
Yes.
They were 50.
Were they?
Oh my God.
Shut
yes.
up.
No, they were 50. And so that's the thing, right? And that's
the signalling.
that's only 20 years ago. And that's still our model for what happens in this. Well, that's at the next phase of this life. Do you know what I mean? Like, so that comparisonitis of really can drive that enoughness or that lack of enoughness. And choosing wisely who is feeding your internal dialogue, I think, is just as important as how you then manage your internal dialogue, or have that dialogue with your internal dialogue. See, what's a multi-dialogue? I mean, because my internal dialogue's not just two-way.
Multi-dialogue is noise.
Hi.
That's what my 90-year-old's trying to get away from.
I think it's the female brain.
Monkey brain.
Yeah. No,
Deaths.
that is so true. Yeah, absolutely. There's my brain's firing off now in about 5 different paths. Oh, sorry, microphone. Lots of different directions. So I'm not even going to go there, because I know that if I do, it's going to be a really big conversation, and we don't really want to do that at this point in time. So, but I thank you for sharing that, because that is so true. We fall into that comparison trap often, but like you, Alex, I think we've hit the age where where we go,
yes,
fuck that.
We can
we can swear.
We can cuss.
We can swear now.
Yes.
Because we're 50.
The host
Because we're
50. Let's go. Bring it.
Permission to swear.
No, it's nice, but it's nice when you get to that point, I think. And you can, and you just, it just, there's such freedom in it.
And can I just go down a tiny rabbit hole? Is that okay?
I love how she's asking permission. Like where any of us are going to stop you.
You're right, it's for me, not for you. You're so right. Let's be honest here.
Whose podcast is this again? Oh, yeah, okay, Rabbit Hole, Anita, yes.
Maybe that's what we should call the podcast, is Down the Rabbit Hole with Erica and Anita. There's a physiological thing that happens to us. It happens in our brains, and it's a very real thing. Thank you, estrogen.
Yeah.
Fall down.
Totally.
That's what does it. It's the estrogen drop. And with the estrogen drop, I think testosterone gets a little bit more airtime as well, but it is in our brains. Our brain goes, fuck that.
Yeah, that's right. Your brain says, okay, let's amplify the rage. Here it comes. Here it comes. And all of a sudden people around you are saying, why is it you don't like that? Just, and it comes out.
So this is really interesting because I'm not there yet. I have moments where I can feel those estrogen
You're in
drops.
peri, darling.
Yeah,
Yeah.
no kidding.
Peri is the storm. Yeah.
But but I've been doing a lot of research on the impact of that estrogen drop, and just hearing you both talk about that. So are you saying to us younger folk, Erica and I, that some of those traits that we have attributed to men up until now actually become more natural? So we actually don't have that feminine, talking about those rules that we have around be nice, be polite, be a polite woman of society. Is that kind of what you're telling me is waiting on the other side of this perimenopause storm?
Yeah.
Please tell me.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, it is. Yeah.
Wow.
Know that it is.
Yeah, I think she's just telling us that to make me feel good.
Oh, no, I can tell you many stories. No, it is. There's a liberation to it.
Yeah, right.
Absolutely. But also, I think at the stage you're in, that's when I felt the ups and downs and the questioning of who am I? Because this is not normally how I act.
Oh, yeah.
And that rage, I mean, talk about shame, but I threw a knife because that happened to be in my hand one night and I threw it. And I can't tell you the trauma that caused within me, but it's like, who the hell am I? Yeah, so that's what happens. And I think it is. And then I started pushing back on things more and more and going, no, I'm not going to do that.
Yeah, right.
No, you can go, you do what you want, but fuck that, I'm not doing that.
I better put my knives away.
Put your knives away, girl.
No more cooking for me.
But yes, that's really, it does. And I think it is because relative to testosterone starts to leap in. And I have had this conversation with girlfriends where we've gone, I felt like more like a bloke today. And that's framing. Yeah. So for me personally, I did feel that at times. Then it eased.
I've never felt like a bloke because I kind of push back it a little bit about how we frame things up as feminine or masculine. And
you're right.
Kind of like, well, if I'm feeling it and if I identify in this particular way, then it must be consistent with that in some way. So, but for me, there was no knives involved. There are a couple of plates that are now no longer plate-ish, right? So, but what was really hilarious for me looking back, because there's so much comic material in this, right?
Now there is.
Now there is. No, there
We've
kind of was at
this.
the time too. But so I think what happens is with the testosterone thing is, particularly with the fellas, is that in the 20s they start to figure out how to control it a little bit.
You're right.
This is clearly not something that happens with teenage boys, but in their 20s it's all starting to be like, okay, right, I can contain it like this and contain it like that. And then they seem to settle down, and as we know, men start to get interesting once they hit 40.
Mm-hmm.
And then they watch the women in their lives hit the change. Auntie Flo turns up,
or doesn't,
and then all of a sudden the women are behaving right and having these moments where they snap like they're boys in their 20s.
Yeah, wow,
teenage, and I'm just like, this is like the ultimate form of revenge. It's brilliant. I'm surrounded by boys, so I'm like, this is great. So during their teenage years, I got to be the delinquent mother. That's a whole nother show.
Yeah.
Right. And now, as a menopausal woman, I can just wreak my revenge in so many different ways. It's great.
Wow. Okay. That's
you've got a lot to look forward to.
You up for that?
It's really good.
Yeah, I am. And what I appreciate about this conversation too is that the research that I'd been doing so far had been about the negative impacts of the drop of the estrogen. And what I'm seeing is, write it out, which I'm doing. I understand enough about how hormones are affected by stress and food and nutrition and all that kind of stuff. So I'm able to manage that. So knowing that there's something more comfortable on the other side is kind of like, ooh, let me add that. Let's get to that.
No, I promise you it's there.
Yeah, awesome.
And to you too, Erica. It's there, darling.
Well, that was a rabbit hole.
I mean, that was a great rabbit hole. I feel a little bit like Alice in Wonderland, Alice in Menopause Land. That could have also been an alternative title.
One potion will make you menopausal.
Yeah, that's right.
Erica, all right, let's regain control.
I'm conscious of the time, but I feel like we could just talk at length about all of the topics that we've already spoken about, but I'm going to change path a little bit, because one of the
Fine.
reasons that we wanted to invite the two of you in was because we know that both of you have some pretty kick-ass routines in your life around creating space. And I think that's one of the things that perhaps is the most important when it comes to navigating this stuff, is we have to have the space to kind of be aware of what's going on. We have to have the space to process. We have to have the space to kind of come back to ourselves over and over again. And so I wondered if you could share a little bit about that. I know Alex has been on a bit of a experiment of
Bender.
sorts in recent time. Yeah, bit of a morning routine bender. And I know that Kat also has a really important morning routine as well. Not the kind of bender you ever thought you'd go on, is it? So I wanted to.
There are
Anita's
great
lost
things
it.
on the other side of menopause. It's benders. Morning
Not
routines
as you know them.
benders.
Oh,
So
thank
maybe
you,
Alex, you could start, but I think it would be really helpful to hear that, because we hear so much about, morning routines, and we hear so much about kind of all of this sort of stuff. And what I really want to hear from you is kind of like, I guess, what you do and how it actually supports you, because I think the actual pieces of it are kind of neither here nor there, right? Like, do whatever. But how does it actually support you to be able to navigate some of this stuff with a little bit more ease and kindness towards yourself?
Yeah. Well, thanks. I think going way back, I learned how to meditate many, many years ago when my son was unwell, because I knew I needed that to bring a sense of calm and to kind of focus the monkey brain a bit while there was a lot of stuff going on. I was under a lot of pressure. And since that time, which is now, what would it be, 18 years ago, I have had periods where I've meditated and not. And towards the end of last year, I started to get back into it again, and I was trying to anchor my day so that I would be more productive while I was working, so that as a small business owner, I could have days that just hit the mark all the time, because there were many days that don't hit the mark. And so I picked up meditating again, and I started to do a little bit of yoga at home. And those things started to work. And then through the Her Business Network, we got the Miracle Morning book. And I read that in about a week, and I was like, okay, I'll do that. So I am, as a girlfriend of mine would say, Alex, you are the easiest audience I've ever come across. So I will read stuff, absorb it, and give things a go. So I started to do the savers piece. So S for silence, which is the meditation. A for affirmations, V for visualization. What's E? Exercise. R is reading, and then S is scribing or journaling. So I do all of them every morning now, and I do a 25-minute meditation. And what I'm doing while I'm doing that is listening to noise at 437 megahertz for the vagus nerve stimulation piece. So I do that, and then I do my visualization and affirmations piece for about 6 minutes. Then I get into my yoga, and then I do my scribing and reading, and that has just been amazing. So I get up at 5 o'clock or just before, and I'll start that process. So by the time I get to about 6:30, I'm into the reading, and then depending on the day that I have and what's going on, I'll give myself either 20, 25, maybe 40 minutes to read, depending on what day it is. So that has been for me just fantastic. And I was surprised that I could get up at 5 o'clock in the morning, because I have been such a night owl for my whole life. Like, I used to run nightclubs, amongst other things. But so I was very, very used to just sort of having energy all the way through the night. And when I thought, I wonder how I'll go waking up at 5 o'clock in the morning, and without the alarm going off, I just did it. And I've been pretty good at doing that every morning since. And that's it's just been something that has changed my focus. So meditation works for your focus and helps calm the monkey brain. So that's really good for productivity. The affirmations and visualization piece were probably the bit that I was most skeptical about, because the whole idea that you can jump around and say, I am a money magnet and it will work has never really worked for me. But the things that I get out of that now is some understanding of how when you talk to yourself and you affirm the good things that you want and you put pictures in your mind about what you want to achieve, how you are more likely to get to those targets.
Mm-hmm.
So I've really played with that, because when you are skeptical like I am, you go, right, let's do science experiments on my life. You have a crack at those things. So that's been fantastic. The journaling has been great, because I just, it's stream of consciousness, getting stuff out, trying to focus on making sure there's a lot of gratitude in that. The whole exercise of thinking about gratitude has been very good for reflecting on how I'm going. So that's really helps with that piece we were talking about before, about understanding what you have achieved. And with the reading, I've actually allowed myself the space to read a lot of history. I wanted to read a lot of Australian history, and that's helped for my reconciliation work. So, and I'm actually getting through books, because I have been chronically one of those people who likes to buy books and then stack them up next to my bed.
So you can feel the pressure to never read them.
In an aspirational kind of way. But I'm actually getting through them now, which feels pretty good. In preparation for this morning, I said to my husband this morning, who's a very good bellwether of things, I said, do you think there has been a difference? And he went, oh, yeah, like immediately.
Yeah, right.
He was like, yeah. He goes, you're more optimistic and you're happier than I've seen you in years.
Nice.
So it really does make, for me, it's been a really amazing type of space to create just for me. So, there's nothing, make a cup of tea in the middle of it for just for me, sit down, there's no one else around, it's great. Brilliant time. Love it.
Nice.
That's fantastic.
How about you, Kat?
I've had a morning routine of sorts for as long as I can remember. And the reason I was just reflecting on that was, you asked your husband whether there's been a difference. I remember years ago when the kids were little, I can't even remember how it came about, but I'd said something along, I'd said I was about to go for a walk, and the one of the kids said, "Oh," and the other one said, "No, Mum's much nicer when she's gone for a walk." So
Smart boy.
yes, very smart, and they were little, like that was 6 or 7. So I create space through my morning routine as well. Get up at around the first alarm goes off at around 5:30. I'm out of bed by 10 to 6. For me, that's actually really important. For me, having that 20 minutes of wake up time and just lying with my thoughts is important. I have stopped checking my phone now when I wake up. That used to be a big thing, but I don't do that anymore. And then I walk, and then I do yoga when it's warm enough or it's dry enough, which it has not been either of those two things for quite a while now in Brisbane. I will then do my yoga on my front lawn, which is just stunning, just being out under a blue sky and whatnot. Then I will meditate for 20 minutes or so, and then I'll make myself a cup of coffee, have a couple of little pieces of chocolate, and journal. The journaling of late, though, has become a little bit it actually supports me getting back into my head. So I've been changing how I do the journaling and and have trialed journaling while I'm still at my meditation altar. And then to close it out, something that I've literally just introduced in the last couple of days has been a verbal journal as I go to bed. So I use Insight Timer. I've just upgraded to the paid version, and doing a verbal journal, as in just talking into the microphone of my phone, but having it transcribed so I know that it's there. I will never go back to look at it, but there is a tangibility for me that says I've just logged my day. And in particular, what I'm focusing on at that end of the day is what was good, because I'm masterful at telling myself what I haven't gotten done for the day.
Wow.
Oh, yeah.
And then going to bed
You don't want to
feeling crappy.
marinate that overnight.
It's a never-ending list.
So to answer your question, Erica, of what does that do for me, what does that ritual do for me, is it keeps me present. to what is real as distinct to the BS that I spin in my head throughout the day. We talked before about the shift in estrogen levels. I'm having some significant challenges at the moment with what I now I used to suspect. I'm now pretty sure that I have ADHD, and so that drop in estrogen has just lifted distraction, lack of focus, hyperfixation on all of the things that aren't actually useful, a complete and utter inability to get anything freaking done, procrastination, all of those things. Like all of those things, I'm like, oh, yeah, look at that. And so what my morning routine does is actually gets me back to what is real, what can I influence today, what's important, and then doing my darndest to push aside all of the other stuff. And what it also then does is it gives me a grounding. So as I find myself procrastinated, distracted, going down a rabbit hole of self-flagellation, I will then go back to my meditation altar, or I'll open up the app and I will revisit the intentions that I set for myself that morning. And I'm probably meditating and visualizing more often than I've ever done in my life. And I tell myself, you're wasting your time. But no, because then when I come back, I'm that much more productive isn't the word that I want to use, because that's what I'm actually trying to get myself out of. I focus on productivity. It's, am I expressing myself in the way that I want? Am I showing up in the world in the way that I want?
Yeah, I love that.
And frequent. And some days it's been, I've been meditating 4 or 5 times, and the time available to do the work has been far less. But hey, I was scrolling social media or distracted or faffing anyway. So
Yeah, I love that because I have a morning routine that I love, and I find that it's really interesting, and maybe you find this too, Erica, is that it feels counterintuitive some days. Like if you know you've got a really full day coming up and you go, oh, I just don't have time for as much yoga this morning in part of my morning routine. I really have to pull that back in myself and go, no, this will actually give you the space and make you, you feel better for it. And so, yeah, it kind of feels counterintuitive sometimes.
I've enshrined it now. My calendar, there is no availability before 10 a.m.
Yeah.
I don't expect myself to be at my desk now until 10 a.m. And on those mornings where I have been running late or I've needed to do something for the kids, and so that's potentially shrunk my yoga or meditation time, I'll call ahead to the client and say, "Sorry, running late."
Oh, that's brilliant.
Like that morning routine gets prioritized over everything.
And that's a really good point. It doesn't happen unless you prioritize it.
Totally.
Yeah, you do. You have to protect the time.
Yeah. When
Oh,
people say I don't have time, it's like, no, I'm sorry, that's an excuse. I just won't cop that.
Yeah. And when people invite me to breakfast meetings, sorry, no,
Yeah. Yeah.
I just don't do them anymore.
That's great. What do you think, Super Champ?
I love it. And I think I took a lot from that. That was awesome. But the thing that's really stuck out to me the most is how your morning routines have changed, and that you are still willing to continue to adapt them to what you need. And I think, I don't know, sometimes I find myself in the world that I'm immersed in, people talking about, I've done this for 20 years. And you're like, cool, that's awesome. But it becomes this, I don't know how to describe it in a way that's going to make sense, but
Well, it's like brushing
kind
your
of like
teeth,
it
right?
becomes about the actions.
Yeah.
Yes. Yes. And it becomes a little bit like there's no questioning of, does this allow me to show up the way that I want to show up in the world? Does this kind of support me to live the way that I want to live, feel the way I want to feel? It becomes more about it being a virtue, right? Like I showed up for this, and so therefore I am good. And it kind of ties into those stories that, I think Alex talked about as well. So I love that. That piece for me is huge. It's like there was nothing in what you said that made me think, oh, there's a little virtue pin that you put on yourself for having done that, and that's kind of the purpose of it. It's like, no, how does this support me? It serves me. Yeah, not the world, not any, everybody else, but it actually serves me, and I love that. And it might continue to change, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Undoubtedly. Yeah. No, but it is the best thing. 100%.
Yeah, I love it.
Yeah.
I wouldn't do without it now.
Yeah. It's true. You can't imagine your life without it.
I
Or
just
what would
enjoy
life
it
be
too
like
much.
without it? Yeah.
Life
Absolutely.
would be very cranky.
Yes. Oh, yeah. Make
Yeah.
way.
So everyone else can just go get knotted.
Yeah.
Really.
I'm carving this out.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean that with love, of course.
A little bit.
A little bit.
So we've shared a lot today.
Mm.
Thank you. It's been extraordinary. How are we feeling?
Yeah, good.
Yeah,
We're
good.
good. We're good for getting
Feel
it
like we
out,
need
another
sharing our
episode.
wisdom.
Yes.
Oh.
We could. We could go again, couldn't we?
We could.
Let's lock that in. Season 2 opener.
You're on.
Maybe.
Yep.
Maybe that's what it is. Hey. Love a good content plan.
Yeah.
We have a question here in our podcast that we like to ask our guests. So here it comes. Are you ready?
Sure.
Okay. You're at your 90th birthday party and someone does a speech and they capture the essence that is you. And they do it in a way that makes you feel so seen. What have they seen? What have they said at your 90th birthday party? Who wants to go first?
Alex is looking at me for those who are listening
No,
expectantly.
I wrote notes on my phone, so I'm just going to.
Yeah, you go grab it, girl. That's all good.
What they've said about me, actually, I need to preface this by saying there's a part of me that doesn't care.
Yeah.
There is a part and what other people think of me is none of my business.
Mhm.
And I do my best to live my current life by that adage. And whilst I fail miserably a lot of the time, by the time I'm 90, I'm really hoping I'm not failing at that element of my life. However, if somebody was to speak about me at my 90th birthday in a way that I feel so seen, they would say something like, Kat has always lived her life according to her rules. She strikes us as someone who doesn't really give two hoots, but we know that to not be true. She has carved a life of kindness and joy and explored many different things in many different ways on her own terms. And we love her for that.
Yay.
Yay, that's beautiful.
Yeah.
I love that.
That's
Thank you for
nice.
sharing that.
Yeah.
That's
Pleasure.
great.
Yeah.
I can see that being said at your 90th birthday party.
I kind of figured that that's what I hope they're saying at my 50th.
Yeah.
It's just that you don't have such big
continuum.
speeches at 50th
Yeah.
as you do 90.
Yeah. Well, thank you. Thanks, Kat. That's
Pleasure.
great. Are you ready?
I am ready. I don't want speeches at my 90th. I want to be out the back.
That wasn't the question. There is a
out the
speech.
back making terracotta dragons.
All right.
Okay, but what I wrote is somebody stands up, and I'll be looking at them thin-lipped and slitty-eyed. Make sure that they get it right.
We have dragons around
Okay,
you.
so she lived through a prism of grief. She celebrated the awful wretchedness and the sublime beauty of human flaws and frailty. I know, it's better if I write it right. And wrestled with social expectation her whole life, but never suppressed the inner child, and brought happiness and mischief wherever she went.
There's that
There you
mischief
go.
showing up again.
Yeah, I
So-
know.
and so
Because I'm
it-
a rat bag. I can't help it.
And it
That's
means
just-
that at your 90th birthday too, you're serving fairy bread and dragon
I was gonna say
cupcakes.
arsenic.
Because you want everyone to
I
rack
want
off.
everyone to go, just go home. Honestly, people.
Leave me alone with my dragons.
No, I'm kidding. I'm kidding.
You're making martinis.
Oh, somebody else will be making
Oh,
martinis.
somebody else will be
Yeah.
making
I will be drinking martinis.
Oh, right. Okay. Bit like not making dinner.
Yeah, my hipster bartenders will be making me cocktails. I wonder how old they'll be.
The Barn
Will
Boys.
will I still want the 20-year-old bar boys, or will I want somebody a little bit closer to my age? And hopefully hopefully beards are still in fashion, because that would just
I don't
finish
think
me
you'll
off.
care.
All of the above.
No, aesthetics are important. And now we've revealed too much.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Let's rein
okay.
this in before it gets
There's
ugly.
a moment when you could stop and pause, and then you go past that moment.
Erica, you're editing, aren't you?
Yeah,
Don't
yeah.
be editing. Don't be editing.
Thank you. That's
Yeah.
awesome.
This has been amazing, ladies. Thank you so much for
your
sharing
pause.
with us. And I know I'm like, this is my opportunity. Thank you for sharing with us. Thank you for being willing to be seen. And I just can't thank you enough. This has been delightful. I can't think of a better word.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, how fun.
Yeah. have
Thanks for
fun.
having us.
Cause mischief. Had fun. Do it your way. All of that.
Damn
All the
right.
way. Yep.
And go, estrogen leaving the building because there's freedom in that.
Well, and you can't not have it leave the building. So let's just accept and surrender, right?
Yeah. Go with it. Absolutely. Thanks, Erica.
Burn it down on your way out, Anita.
Don't throw knives. What other hot tips have we shared?
God, the snippets on this, right? Mate, yeah. Anywho.
That's great. Thank you. And we'll hold you to episode 1, season 2.
You're on.
What do you reckon,
Okay.
Erica?
Bring it.
Absolutely. We have a lot more to talk about.
We
Yes, we
sure
do.
do. This is
We
just the
certainly
beginning.
do.
Girl, you are just getting started.
Indeed.
Thanks so much.
Thank you,
Thanks,
ladies.
See
Thank
you.
you.
Thanks, Erica.
Thank you for joining us for Midlife Unfiltered. If you loved this episode, you're going to love what's coming next. Be sure you're subscribed on your platform of choice so you don't miss a thing.
We'd also be delighted, and for sure do a little happy dance, if you took the time to leave us a rating and review. Those not only absolutely make our day, but more importantly, it helps other women who may be wanting something more from their midlife to know about us and to listen in as well. You can connect with us on socials too. You'll find links to connect on LinkedIn, Instagram, and email in the show notes.